So, while we wait, at the time of recording this audio, we still do not know what Quinn Hughes' status is going to be for the Four Nations Face-Off Tournament. We'll make a video about him, about Crosby, about Doughty, about Ristolainen, about everybody else later in today's show once we get ourselves the update. But in this video, I wanted to talk about the main guy, Mr. 11.6 himself in Vancouver, and what this upcoming tournament has the chance to do. We can dive into some of the perspectives, we can talk about the potential outcomes, as well as what Vancouver Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet ended up saying about this opportunity. This show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go out there and check out the first link in the description to save some money on your VPN, get some free months, and support this YouTube channel all in the process. Today we are talking about Pettersson, the main Pettersson on the team, Mr. 11.6 EP40 Elias Pettersson. Now, there are a number of nicknames we've tossed out for the other guys. Elias Pettersson is DPD. Marcus Pettersson, I heard Halford and Bruff calling him MP3, which is really clever thinking about it now. The M for Marcus, of course, and then the P3 because it's like PD, but instead of the PETEY, it's P3. 3, right? Yeah, okay, so PD, DPD, MP3, I actually really like it. We're going to start using that now. Thanks, Halford and Bruff. But Elias Pettersson is heading over to Team Sweden to participate in the Four Nations Face-Off Tournament. When you disregard JT Miller, when you disregard the team circumstance, when you disregard the amount of goals the Vancouver Canucks are scoring in 24-25, which is significantly less than the goals they were scoring last year, just on paper, it's been a bad year for Elias Pettersson. It's been a really bad year. He's making 11.6. He's not playing like an 11.6 caliber player. 2 seasons ago, he had 102 points in 80 games. Last season, it was already a down year, but he still had 89 points in 82 games played. This season, he is on pace for 53 points in 76. And with only 2 points in 5 games in the post-JT Miller era, there was a lot of buzz yesterday heading into the game against Toronto that the Vancouver Canucks might have traded the wrong guy, PD sucks, and he's not good anymore, and this and that, and we've been seeing all the arguments. I mean, a lot of people in my comment section are really divided as well. It's been very interesting to acknowledge everybody's different points of views. But still, Pettersson had a good game yesterday against Toronto. It was interesting because heading into the game, Elliot Friedman interviewed Rick Tocchet, and Tock said that one of the things that they did with Elias Pettersson was they sat down and they showed him his power play footage from the game against San Jose. And if you remember the video that we made about the San Jose-Vancouver game, it was a very negative one about Elias Pettersson, even though the Canucks ended up winning. He was just that bad in that game. He was gifted power play time, but he wasn't taking any shots. He wasn't cutting into the middle. He wasn't making nice passes. He was just facilitating the play on the outside and making the safe play 100% of the time. None of the dynamism that we know Elias Pettersson has in his game was being showed off in that San Jose game, despite the multiple power play opportunities. So yesterday, before the game against Toronto, Rick Tocchet said, yeah, we sat down with PD, we showed him his power play footage, and we asked him, what do you think we need out of you in these situations? And that's exactly where Pettersson said, hey, I need to shoot, I need to attack the middle, I need to be more dangerous, this and that. And so, heading into the game against Toronto, Canucks fans got a little bit of a breather. Okay, Rick Tocchet talked to Petey, and Petey knows that these parts of his game need to be better. Let's see if that takes over into the game against Toronto. And to be fair, he had a really strong game against the Maple Leafs. Maybe the best Pettersson game we have seen in months. Sure, he has had other games throughout the 24-25 season where he has had multiple points. Unfortunately, those games are pretty rare nowadays. But this still was one of the better games. He was hitting guys, he was attacking the middle, he was making really nice reads, and he made a really beautiful pass to Filip Hronek, who ended up scoring. He also hit the post himself when trying to shoot short side. So Pettersson was a lot more dangerous in the game against Toronto, and all you can really hope for heading into this Four Nations Face-Off tournament is that momentum carries over and that Pettersson is able to fully capitalize on the situation, on the context, and on the pressure. Interestingly enough, the NHL's social media went out there and tweeted the projected lines of the Team Sweden squad, and they actually had Pettersson as the second-line center behind Mika Zibanejad, and a lot of people were saying, like, okay, wait a minute, what? Why is Zibanejad, out of all people, the number one center. Is that really the right way to go about it? Shouldn't Pettersson be the number one alongside a Nylander and Jesper Bratt? I mean, Pettersson's still playing with Forsberg and Raymond. That's still really good. We're not going to dispute that. But Elias Pettersson probably is a higher-end talent than Mika Zibanejad is at this point, and if there is an opportunity for him to get that number one center spot, play off against the top centers in USA, like, okay, maybe not necessarily Austin Matthews, maybe he gets JT Miller, or maybe he gets Eichel, or maybe he gets Larkin or something. I don't know. Rick Tocchet said this about Elias Pettersson heading into the Four Nations. I just want him to have fun with his countrymen. Just go have fun, hang out with his buddies, and rejuvenate his whole demeanor. Tonight, he had some fun. He has to understand that pressure is fun sometimes. And I think we can all agree, when Elias Pettersson is not in his own head, when he is just going out there and doing his deeks, when he's gripping and ripping it, when he just lets himself go, that's when he plays his best. Speed, power, agility. He's a big fan of these things, but he hasn't exhibited much of that in this season's worth of play. Interestingly enough, the coach that we're going to see for Team Sweden at the Four Nations is none other than Sam Hallam, whom you may or may not recognize as being the head coach of the Växjö Lakers in 2017-2018. The same year, Elias Pettersson was a rookie in the SHL, where he was the MVP of the SHL, where he was the Rookie of the Year in the SHL, where he led the entire league in scoring, where he broke Kent Nielsen's record for U20 point production in the league. That was the year where Elias Pettersson went sicko mode on everybody. And the next season he came into the NHL, he scored in his first shift, his first shot against, I think it was Jonas Hiller. If not him, maybe it was Kari Rama or somebody. It was somebody in Calgary. But Elias Pettersson was a force to be reckoned with right away. 10 goals in his first 10 NHL games, with the 10th goal being an on-the-rush slap shot from distance that went top cheese in Detroit. The guy was amazing, and it's going to be a breath of fresh air to see this player finally playing a system that's different from Rick Tocchet's dump and chase defensively minded system. Sure, the system wins games, but we had seen Elias Pettersson drop off significantly from the halfway point of 23-24 into the second half and then into the playoffs last year. And for all of 24-25, with the exception of the one time JT Miller was off the team for a leave of absence, Pettersson has been a total shadow of his former self, an offensive black hole, like Jannik Hansen called him yesterday. So ultimately, heading into the Four Nations, there are a number of things. Firstly, the question is, if Pettersson does so well at this tournament, if he's really, really good, firstly, what does that say about the Vancouver Canucks situation and the Vancouver Canucks coaching style? And secondly, does that entice Patrik Allvin to take advantage of the value there? Hey, Pettersson was a point-per-game, over-point-per-game stud at this tournament. Now his value is sky high. Carolina, do you still want him? Columbus, Buffalo, what are your thoughts? Do you think he's worth more than what you were offering us last time? He's now good again. Or do Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford look at the situation like, okay, why were you not performing as well like that with our own team? Come back here and show us that you got what it takes to do that in a Vancouver Canucks sweater. If Pettersson doesn't perform, if he ends up not really doing all too well, he looks like the same Pettersson we had been seeing for the past few weeks here in Vancouver for Team Sweden, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, his value is going down because now everybody's looking at this guy, everybody's watching it, everybody is seeing it in front of their own eyes rather than just hearing about it from angry Canucks fans on Twitter. Hey, he's not attacking the middle, he's not making plays, he's not staying on his feet, he's passing up opportunities. That is not really going to look all too well. And I think maybe there will still be other teams like, oh, we know he's better than that. We can take him on. We can trade for him and we'll become good. But for Vancouver, it's like, yeah, they just got to wait and see. Patrik Allvin and Rutherford have to wait and see, just really evaluate what Pettersson is looking like at the Four Nations and then maybe try to gauge the market interest from there. We'll see what happens. But if Pettersson is still struggling at this tournament, then maybe it just makes Allvin and Rutherford's job a lot harder. Maybe it becomes a lot more difficult to trade this guy for a premium. But anyways, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Pettersson finally getting out of the system in Vancouver? He's going to be coached by the guy who allowed him to become the golden boy in Sweden for that 17-18 rookie year that he had. Hopefully he's able to get back to form, but we'll wait and see. Right? Thoughts in the comment section below about Pettersson heading into the Four Nations tournament. I hope you enjoyed this video. And by.